You've probably started to look at making money online, traveling the world, setting your own schedule, and you're considering going into remote sales. And you've likely heard the notorious debate: high ticket closing versus appointment setting. Which one's better? What's the difference between the two? How much money can you make in one versus the other? Which one's harder? What route should I take? Well, in today's video, I want to go ahead and answer all of those questions by pulling back the curtain and giving you the unfiltered truth on both roles. So get comfy and make sure you watch to the end of this video. So in order to understand which sales role is best for you, you must first understand the sales process as a whole. That way you can see where setters and closers come into the sales process and really identify the key differences between the two. So this is a common sales funnel, and it's used in most online businesses, whether that be B2C or B2B. And a sales funnel is essentially the journey a prospect will take from being a cold lead to being someone that's interested in buying that product or service and is potentially booked into a calendar with a closer, with the end goal of them becoming a paying customer. So the way this works is a prospect will see some sort of ad, some sort of content, or some level of marketing that entices them to go ahead and check out the offer, click on the website, engage in a conversation with a member of the team, or go to an opt-in page. And at this stage, they're having a conversation with a setter, or they've already opted in and they provided their information on the website to find out more about what your company has to offer. That could be a name, email, phone number, and they'll give you that information to find out more, or in order to get access to some sort of free training. So this is exactly where a setter will step in. When a lead shows interest or a lead opts in to their website or to getting that free training, the setter's job is to have a conversation with that prospect, educating them further and really qualifying them to see if they're a good fit for what your company does, with the end goal of getting them to book a demo or a consultation or a discovery call with the closer. So appointment setters really focus on kind of top of funnel. Their primary focus is really lead generation and actually qualifying prospects. So setters spend most of their days kind of identifying and engaging with potential customers through cold outreach, such as email, social media, sometimes even over the phone. And the goal is to really pack out that closer's calendar. But the goal is to pack it out with qualified prospects, because otherwise the closer will be wasting tons of time taking calls of people ultimately weren't a good fit or couldn't afford the service or product the company you're working for is providing. And obviously that's not an ideal situation for a business owner if they're spending a lot of time, money, and energy on actually generating those leads. So that should give you a pretty good understanding of the setter's role within the kind of overall holistic sales process. So now let's come on to the closer's role. And essentially the closer kind of picks up where the setter leaves off. So once the setter has contacted, qualified, and booked an appointment with that interested prospect, that appointment is directly put onto the closer's calendar, which is easily one of the best things about being a closer. Rather than spending your whole day responding to messages, reaching out to leads, and really trying to fill your own pipeline, all the work is done for you. Meaning you get to spend all your focus and energy on speaking to warm prospects that have already shown an interest in what you're selling, which is ultimately where the money's made. Your primary job is to hop on calls with prospects that are already 50% closed and 50% of the way there. Your job is simply to come in and kick them over the line. And here's the crazy thing. The skills you need to become a good closer and to become a good appointment setter are not that different. As a setter, you're convincing cold leads to book an appointment, which, contrary to what a lot of sales gurus will tell you, isn't that easy. And it does require a good understanding of sales and a decent level of sales skills. You see, it's very easy to land a job as an appointment setter, as the barrier to entry is super low. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll make good money within that role. And this is something that a lot of people are unaware of when they sign up to kind of trying to become an appointment setter. They think because it's super easy to land an offer and land a job, that it's gonna be super easy to make good money with it. Where it's actually the opposite in most cases. And honestly, the average commission I see with appointment setters is around 3K a month. And sure, some can put in 6, maybe even at a stretch 10K a month. But that's at a very high end of the spectrum and not the industry average whatsoever. Whereas being a closer is very different. It's a bit harder to land a job initially, but once you do, the earning potential is much greater. A lot of guys I see within the space, and guys I've personally coached inside Club Closer, are hitting 10, 20, some of them even 30K a month with remote closing positions. some of which started with zero sales experience. And making that kind of money as a closer is relatively common, providing you're actually able to get onto a good offer. Now, obviously, as a closer, it's really down to you to make sure you're getting those deals over the line. So you really need to make sure you're good at sales here. But it's no different to being an appointment setter. You need to make sure you're good at sales so you can actually book those appointments, which is what a lot of guys in the space won't tell you. And not only that, as a setter, your income isn't exactly in your control. In fact, a big part of it is completely out of your hands. Since the majority of these roles are all commission-based, you only get paid on the deals that actually close, meaning you're very reliant on the closer to close the deals you've set in order to get paid. So in theory, you could book 100 appointments in a month, but if the closer's no good, you're likely not gonna make any money. Whereas when you're a closer, it's all on you. If you're crushing it and you're closing a lot of the calls that get booked into your calendar, the commission you make will be a direct reflection of that. So now you understand the difference between setting and closing. Let's talk about which one's gonna be better for you. And the biggest difference between these two roles is the barrier to entry. Appointment setter roles tend to have a much lower barrier to entry compared to closing roles. So a lot of the time you're gonna be seeing appointment setter jobs that kind of say you don't need any formal sales training or experience in order to get started. Companies will often hire and to some degree train individuals that they think have a lot of potential, even though they might not have that much, if any, sales experience. Whereas closing roles are gonna be a bit harder to land if you've got no sales experience. But that doesn't mean it's impossible by any means. I've personally worked with guys that have come inside Club Closer with little to no sales experience and have been able to scale to 10K a month in as little as 90 days. So although a lot more effort is required on the front end, the reward on that effort is 100% worth it. Because here's the thing, as a setter, you're working longer hours. You're making lower commission. Setters get around 5% commission and closers get kind of 10% and above. Your income is ultimately out of your control. So not only are you gonna have to work significantly harder to make any money, the upside isn't nearly as good. And this is why I recommend, for the most part, regardless of your experience, you work on trying to become a closer. So if you think about it, in either role, you're gonna have to develop sales skills. So why not put the work in up front and develop the skill needed to become a closer right away, so you can work less and make more in the end. So we can go ahead and break it down from a numbers standpoint, kind of weighing up appointment setting and closing. So if we start with setting, say you put your head down and you grind all day, every day. You're calling leads, you're sending DMs, and you're hitting all your follow-ups, and you manage to book 100 appointments in a month. Now let's say 80% of those appointments actually show up to their scheduled call. And out of those 80 appointments, 20% close. That's 16 deals you're gonna get commission on. At a 5K price point, that's 80K in revenue. 5% of 80K is 4,000. So on a good month where you grinded your ass off, you booked 100 appointments, you're gonna walk away with 4K in commissions, which is, as we said, pretty standard for a setter. Now, obviously, if we look at it from the closer's perspective, typically most qualified businesses are gonna have multiple setters filling a closer's calendar. So it's not rare to have more than 100 appointments booked into a closer's calendar in one calendar month. But for the sake of this example, we'll use the same numbers. So you're gonna get those 100 appointments on your calendar, and you're gonna get about 80% of which show. And you manage to close 20%. You'd also have 16 closers. But this time, instead of grinding out hours after hours of work trying to book those appointments, those calls are booked into your calendar, and you're simply gonna hop on 30 to 40-minute Zoom calls where you're having a conversation with these prospects, trying to close them, and at the end of the month, you're gonna walk away with 8K in commission because you've made 10% on that 80K you closed. See the difference? And since your income as a closer or a setter is highly dependent on your skills, either way, you're going to have to commit to learning sales and becoming the best sales rep you can possibly be. So why not use those same sales skills to make more money and have more freedom? It's a no-brainer, really. And this is why I highly recommend you work on becoming a closer regardless of your experience. Of course, I'm incredibly biased here, which you might have spotted. Becoming an appointment setter, it's not a bad gig, and you can make okay money with it. Especially if you have no experience, it can get you in with a good company where you can ultimately learn a lot. So although you might be taking a hit on the earning potential and you're working longer hours, and providing you're selling a good offer, you can grow within that role relatively quickly if your sales skills aren't there yet and you do just want to start earning ASAP, just be ready to put in the hours and grind. So I hope you guys found that super valuable. And if you're looking to learn more about high ticket closing and sharpen up your sales skills, I highly recommend you subscribe to my channel. You can go through all my content and you can check out my other sales content on Instagram and Facebook too.